and rubs my hair and then goes, "There's my little gollywog."
Wow.
So
Meaning
that's
what?
how. That's how.
Hello, Kudam Sasiwa, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Isaac Jonas. As you know, I am very excited to have our guest, Kudam Sasiwa. Kuda is an entrepreneur, a business person. He runs multiple businesses across Africa, and I have a pleasure of inviting Kuda to the show. Kuda, welcome.
Isaac, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you and greetings to your audience. Nice to talk to a new set of people. So go ahead, man.
Thank you so much. So today we are going to have a conversation about, your experiences running businesses and more importantly, your story. Do you wanna maybe start off by sharing like who is Kuda? I have the privilege of course, knowing you. Do you wanna share like who is Kuda?
No, look, I mean, it's always the first question podcasters ask me. Uh, and it's a very difficult one to answer without self-aggrandizing and so forth. So I
Hmm.
guess the most honest answer is that I'm a father
Hmm.
of six, a husband
Hmm.
to a very wonderful wife, and I'm a son. I'm a passionate musician. Believe it or
Hmm.
not, I play instruments. I like producing beats and music.
Yes.
I used to be a rapper when I was younger and more foolish. Um, And I think it's important to mention that because a
Yes.
lot of the enterprises and stuff I've jumped into are because of maybe some of the the aspirations to to break into the music sector and stuff. So when we learned how to code, learning how
Yes.
to code websites, etc. That's my effort, and I've been paying some
Yes.
right before the WordPresses and stuff. So learning
Yes.
how to code websites, learning how to market, learning how to produce ads and stuff like that. These are all the kind of life lessons I learned in the
Yes.
artistic space before it became before I jumped into the music space. I apologize. My wife will walk in, my kids will walk in, but I'm just it is what it is.
That's okay. I'm not even seeing them. They are obscured.
They're all
Hello,
obscured. Okay, yeah.
I know, ma. Anyways,
It's disappeared.
no problem at all, Kuda. So, can you just as a follow-up, can you tell us? I know you have lived in Australia, the UK, and I remember listening to your story, and that really, sparked curiosity in me. You said you walked back, to Zimbabwe. You went back to Zimbabwe, and you had a Range Rover that never arrived in Zimbabwe. And when you
Yeah.
started your entrepreneurial journey in Zimbabwe, you had nothing to lose. So you went all in entrepreneurship and you've started Fresh in the Box. And I know you have a lot of other ventures, including, venturing into the space of AI. So I'm curious, to hear a little bit more about that because a lot of people, I think, I've seen that sometimes it helps to travel. Not everybody can afford to do that, but it does help you see some things maybe and then possibly see gaps that you can then, create products to make money and also to help people. Do you wanna speak to that, Kuda?
Yeah, look, so I mean, if I ever get too talkative, please do stop me. I'm
That,
cursed with the ability to speak.
that's
Um,
okay.
so like I said, I'm born in Bari, but grew up in Australia.
Hmm.
At a time when Australia did not have black people like myself. I mean, I think young Zimbabweans in Australia now benefit far more from some of the pioneer column that was there in the early 80s,
Hmm.
when when it was extremely racist.
Yes.
It's a colony of ex-convicts, so they're very irreverent.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my character comes from my Australian upbringing.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, if I was so bad that in 1988, the Prime Minister of Australia literally, at a bicentennial celebration where we were, me and my sister, my brother, because we're only black kids,
Hmm.
and a couple of kids born in Papua New Guinea had to act as Aborigines when the first white settlers came to Australia,
Hmm.
and this was the moment when when the Prime Minister, his name was Bob Hawke at the time, walked up to me and says, and rubs my hair and there goes, "There's my little gollywog."
Wow.
So
Meaning
that's
what?
how
Meaning what, Kuda?
gollywogs, gollywog being like a very derogatory term, but to them
Oh,
it was endearment, right?
oh, wow, that was the
So
Prime Minister.
Yeah, the prime minister, right, at the time. So I grew up in a very sort of different conservative white environment as a youngster.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my dad was doing his sort of master's in theology at the time. And my mom was also doing
Mm-hmm.
her master's in special education.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up a majority of my youth in Australia and came
Mm-hmm.
back to Zimbabwe for Form 1, where I
Mm-hmm.
attended Gateway first, then I went to Prince Edward
Mm-hmm.
Boys. Um, so from there, I was very passionate about computers from very early age. Since my dad, used to write his thesis on an Amstrad, very old Amstrad. And in those days, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like you drag a picture and have Zoom calls, right? It's like
Yes.
if you wanted an image on a computer screen, you had to program the bitmap. I mean,
Wow.
it is so you had to program the pixels in a bitmap, right? So,
Yes.
um, you know, so growing up, playing with GW Basic and just learning how to code your own games. At
Mm-hmm.
the time, for example, you could buy a game, it would come as a printed piece of paper that
Mm-hmm.
you would have to compile yourself
Wow.
on a machine, right? And
Yes.
then you could code yourself Space Invaders and play it, right? Captain Comic and so forth. So these are the kind of things that got me into to love code. This is
Mm.
before I understood the logic. It was just understanding that I had to do certain things to make it work.
Wow.
So when I came to Prince Edward, I was blessed that it was one of the first pioneering schools to have
In
the
Zimbabwe,
internet,
right?
the internet, and had computers very, very early on.
Mm-hmm.
A school magazine called Pest,
Mm-hmm.
Prince Edward School Times,
Mm-hmm.
and people like Carl Joshua Nube and stuff. We actually used to like put out really beautiful looking magazines on bond, on newsprint paper,
Mm-hmm.
and doing these crazy graphics and programming bitmaps, and so that's where I think the
Yes.
passion for
Mm-hmm.
tech came from.
Yes.
And then obviously,
Mm-hmm.
after my A levels at Prince Edward, the first thing I did was go to articles to be a chartered accountant, Ernst and Young in those days, and
Mm.
hated it. I'm not a numbers guy. I think I'm very dyslexic. I mean, if you see my spellings on Twitter, for example, you say I'm terrible. It's because I don't see numbers properly. I don't see figures in the right way. I don't even know my mother's or my wife's phone number.
Mm.
So which is quite paradoxic since I love code so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I stuck with the articles for about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We got a bonus around 1998. I think it was 2 years after I left school.
Mm-hmm.
And with my bonus, I went to the UK to visit my girlfriend at the time.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I never left the UK.
Wow.
I never left the UK. I then went to university in the UK. I
Mm-hmm.
started off at Reading University, then I went to City of London University.
Mm.
And from there, that was where I sort of really sort of discovered technology, cryptography,
Mm-hmm.
code, fell in love with the art of developing. The internet was sort of just starting. It was like
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know just sort of learning HTML, and this
Yes.
is before CSS and cascading style sheets and stuff. So just
Mm-hmm.
and when you knew how to do that kind of stuff, it was valuable skills because
Yes.
everybody was trying to create a dot-com bubble of some sort.
Mm.
And before the social media that you and I take absolutely for granted.
Yes.
There was no Facebook. There was, in those days, we used to be all chatting on, Microsoft Messenger and Yahoo
Yes.
Messenger and stuff.
Wow.
You online to talk to someone, etc. So I'm talking a very long time ago. For maybe some of your listeners, I don't know how old they are,
Yes.
but it's important to note that that was the period when
Mm-hmm.
my love for tech really exploded when we're trying to make these cool websites for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, in
Yes.
music careers and stuff, and also for others, and maybe learning that, oh my gosh, we can sell some of these skills
Mm-hmm.
um to people who have no idea what we're doing, right? So in those
Yes.
days, making a website was magic. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like literal magic. I mean, you used to have to host the website at your own house. I mean, you used to have like a server.
Wow.
Uh,
And it
it
was
was a really long
fashionable.
time. That was fashionable, yeah. And so through that time there, I had kids. I was doing pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing sort of websites and stuff by night, but doing odd I was a night porter, I was a cleaner, I did some care work,
Mm-hmm.
swept the streets, I worked at a butchery, you name it, whatever we had to do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, sadly, some of us left Zimbabwe at a time when we did not believe at all that
Mm-hmm.
we were going to be in the diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I left Zimbabwe, I left my articles job to go visit my girlfriend for a month to surprise
Mm-hmm.
her on her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting married and having kids and everything, but I'm just say that
Yes.
I never thought in my mind, wildest of minds, that I would leave Zimbabwe and never come back for such a long time. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, it, during that time when the Black Wednesday happened, the payoff to the war vets happened, and
Mm-hmm.
my CA actually told me, Kuda, if you have an opportunity to stay
Stay there.
there. Don't
Then come
because
back.
it's looking pretty dire. Yeah.
Mm.
So then subsequently I was there for very many years. I mean, 15 years or so. My life then was spent in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, doing odd jobs, doing web development, trying to start
Yes.
startup many times. I mean, we had a startup called Checkmate, which is very similar to what Twitter became.
Mm.
Um, where we sort of roped together all the, Microsoft chats and Yahoo chats and try to put it together and status
Wow.
updates and stuff. Then obviously the MySpaces and Bebos came into vogue
Mm-hmm.
with a lot more funding and stuff. So some of our earlier startups didn't work out really well.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2008, um, we had written a really cool software called A-Star Tools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I sort of took a jump to come to Zim and try and market our school software, which was, pretty much dependent on an internet connection and teachers being able to log in centrally and to a central database, update kids' reports,
Mm.
give parents we're using I think it was called Frontline SMS to send parents messages, etc.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a cool piece of software.
Yeah.
And I made the jump to Zimbabwe and started selling this and got a lot of keen interest. So by 2010, I'd moved back to Zim,
Mm-hmm.
to push our software. But one thing I had not realized is that the UK connection was far different to the
To the
Zimbabwean
Zimbabwean.
connection
Yes.
at the time, right?
Mm.
So even some of our initial clients, some of the initial schools that took on our software really
Mm-hmm.
struggled. We had these really horrible Ethernet dongles that you used to
Mm.
have to plug in, and we couldn't keep the servers going and so forth. So that was sort of my first taste of real failure was when I came back with A-Star Tools, and then we really struggled to get the traction off the
Mm-hmm.
ground with taking a business. And it's in that time when I sort of shipped my entire, life for 15 years in the UK in a
Mm-hmm.
shipping container, hoping that I'll come to Zimbabwe and live my
That.
best life. I
Yes.
had my, I had my little Freelander, which I
Wow.
really loved. It was old. I'd worked so hard for it, and I bought my wife Persian rugs, and we bought her a nice car as well, a Mummy Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And now that stuff arrived, bro, and it's like
Wow.
we're now in Zim. We've now sold up everything in the UK. Now we're here, and
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 nothing
I was
arrived.
just waiting for a year, trying to make sure that praying that our stuff would finally land, and it never did, right? So the bill of lading wasn't paid. The guy that we had paid, in essence, I think it was,
It's
and I
come.
think altogether the cheaper stuff was 19,000 pounds, bro. Like none of that stuff showed up. So it was a moment of starting again. In
So you
2010,
started
2011.
from zero. And that's when you started fresh in the box, I guess.
No, I mean this is still way before that. I mean the first thing that I did when I got back was
Mm-hmm.
I used to work for a hotel called the Riverno Group in the UK, and it
Mm-hmm.
had a beautiful golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And I quickly learned how quickly people network on golf courses and
Yes.
what happens on these golf courses. Now, I cannot play golf for anything. I mean, Jesus, I don't even have a handicap. That's how bad I am. But I just started hanging out at Wingate Golf Club a lot, and just started meeting up with various people in Zim, just talking about, look, these are the kind of skills we have as far as tech is concerned, web and development,
Mm-hmm.
and we discovered that interested in was more design, my design skills and video editing skills and so forth. So that's when we started with
Mm-hmm.
Garden Sun Media, which was my first sort of foray into and starting a new company in Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great company because we managed to get really a lot of great clients on our books. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I still say that you can't drive on Borrowdale Road or Enterprise Road for more
Mm-hmm.
than 1 minute without seeing one of our creations or one of our bits of
Mm.
work,
Wow.
whether it's logos for great fast food companies that now exist everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's brands, like, big bread companies that we still enjoy, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, opaque liquor that we were part of creating and so forth. So there's a lot of different, we really got my teeth into the agency space.
You really have an
The,
imprint across Harare and Zimbabwe. Now you are
yeah.
spreading into Africa, right? Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. Only 31% of the people who tune in to watch this podcast, they are subscribed. So I want to encourage you to please subscribe so that this content can reach far and wide. Thank you again, and may the markets be with you. Hmm.
No, absolutely. So I mean, a lot of that great creative work, won a lot of awards and stuff. And I think it got to a
Yes.
stage again now, 2016-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I just got, I'd maybe it's a midlife crisis,
Yeah.
35, 36. Um, I became very politically aware and really just more and more frustrated with the country I'd come back to, which was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
my final resting place in a heaven for us.
Yeah.
Um, Having been educated by our parents to be
Yes.
competent, to actually understand the world around us and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the decay. So it's that time when I really got involved in social activism with things like
Mm-hmm.
This Flag, Zamuka,
Yes. Yeah,
just always
I
trying
remember, Kuda, sorry to
to
interject. I remember watching you from Canada and you were live streaming when President Robert Mugabe was toppled. And
double
I
this.
actually, yes, you saw you were, I think you were in town and you were on the phone and then you were live streaming. So I actually was watching
Yeah.
from British Columbia.
Well, we were the rabble rousers. We were really
Yes,
trying to, fight for change. And I
yes,
gotta give credit to for Daima Heres and the Pastor Ease and the Patson
yes,
Zamara in peace.
yes,
There's a lot of young people who said,
yeah,
"Look, we're fed up and we really want change." And we were all fed a dummy. Obviously, we
yes,
now know that
yeah.
in March, we marched in bread was 90 cents, and now it's like what, $1 million.
It's politics.
It's politics. So it's almost like after I got really socially conscious that I started doing a lot of social activism that I lost all my clients. I mean, the honest truth is I became
People were scared to then associate with you.
uh, the association became hard, especially with corporate Zimbabwe. And I think
Mhm,
having worked with one of the bigger retailers in Zimbabwe, the move into FreshintheBox was now like, look, guys, the internet has now arrived. People
mhm.
now have data bundles. We can now move shopping online. And I think we used to fight with the MD there and say,
Yes,
and they didn't believe it. When you're getting 3 million people footfall every month into your stores, you don't really seem to care about where the world is going.
yes.
So around 2018, after the coup and everything, we started Fresh in a Box. And we
Mm,
started out with inspiration. Like I said, we just come out of this cool situation.
mhm.
I couldn't get work anymore because people were afraid to touch me.
Yes.
Um, and we made some investments into the tomato project, and and
Mhm.
and those tomatoes were now impossible to even sell,
Wow.
especially to our clients, right? So
Yes.
it was one of those moves which was like made out of desperation, which is going to say, look, I'm now, the woman I went to visit when I was in the UK,
Mhm.
my childhood sweetheart, we got a bad divorce at the same time, right?
Mm, too
Uh,
bad.
so the bad divorce. So
Wow.
that was my moment of starting again, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's when it was starting again from scratch and thinking, look, what can I do now with my life? I love tech.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love agriculture. How can I marry the two? How can I use
Yes.
the wide reach that we have now with
Yes.
social media to sell products, especially our farming products? So,
Mhm.
yeah, like all things in my life, it was a joke on Twitter. I just said, look, I have a bunch of these tomatoes in a box. Who's interested? I'll drive my Honda Fit, drop them off if you give me $10. And
Uh-huh. That's how Fresh in the Box started.
it's the tweet is literally still there. If you look at
Wow.
it, like around the 24th of October 90 and 2018, it started just like that.
Wow.
And people then I used to just post myself driving around delivering my tomato project to people's homes,
Yeah, I
and then
remember
other
you
farmers
went
just started saying,
to Shingiminyesas. I follow you on social media. I remember you delivered to Shingiminyesas. I think maybe that's how those were the early days. It is home and
Yeah,
then
those
quick.
those were absolutely the early days. I mean, he must have seen on social media as well. And remember, he was at Ernest and Young, so he was one of the
Yes,
CAs with doing lighties.
yes,
So he really supported the business, and he loved our
yes.
fresh produce. And when that was happening, people like yourselves were watching, and some
Yeah.
other farmers were like, you know what? I also have lettuce, I also have cucumbers, I also have
Hmm.
broccolis. So all of a sudden now we had to build a system to sign and say, how do we get other farmers to supply us,
A
pack it
network.
in a box, and then deliver a more wholesome box. And this is
Mm-hmm.
before we had a name for it. So when we were asked one day by a customer, what's the name of your company? And we just said fresh in a box.
Right on the spot.
Like it was
Wow.
most probably most
Wow.
non-creative ever. But I think it was a
What a
hyper
name.
accelerated.
Yes, but it's a very good name actually, you know.
But it works.
Yeah.
So that was how a business that we started trying to just like try and get my feet wet again in the tech space and just create a simple app to order my
Mhm.
tomatoes.
Yes.
Immediately, like all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, we're now at 100 deliveries a day. We
Wow.
have all these farmers delivering their produce to our to my garage. She was like, this is my to my garage at my house.
Wow.
Um, and so it's like, okay, cool. The tech has to now catch up with the orders, the
Mm-hmm.
logistics has to catch up. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I learned quickly was, okay, you can't do everything yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not able to go get bank loans. We're not able to do anything, but this business is clearly growing.
Yes,
How do I
there's
get
huge
more
demand.
people to, yeah, how do I get more people to help me deliver? Because I can't just do this until 10 a.m. every night, to
Yes.
10 p.m. every night. So
Yes.
that's what we discovered. There's a young company that has started called Windy, which still operates today. It was
Mm-hmm.
like an Uber in Zim.
Okay.
Um, and I called him, Kuma Patrick, and I was like, dude, what do your cab drivers do after school run, before
Mm.
lunch,
Mm.
or after before home run? And he's like, they're sitting at the shops. I'm
Wow.
like, perfect. You partner with your drivers so that like as soon as they finish school run at 9, they
They
come to my
drive.
house, pick up
Wow.
stuff, and then they take stuff and we pay them for the
Mm.
delivery, right? And that's how we immediately scaled. Like we could now do far more orders. And
Wow.
then we opened up our floodgates. Say, look, now that we have all these drivers who are able to partner with us,
Mm-hmm.
yesterday we have 50 drivers who can now come pick up and do deliveries on our behalf. And we
Yeah.
can route. We had a really incredible routing software that me and Rufaro worked on, which could
Yes.
say, okay, cool, you're going to Mount Pleasant, so do all these 10 houses on this route, you do these 10 houses on this route. And
Mm-hmm.
we got so efficient that we like within 1 hour, we
Mm-hmm.
could have got 1,000 customers serviced. And it was really great
Mm.
to scale a business in that kind of way, which was
Kuda.
actually an agricultural business.
I wanted to interject there because I was watching this podcast where Monash Propriety is one of the top investors in the US. You said something that was profound. That is, that you learned coding when you were young. He said that if you teach your kids to start learning coding when they are young, they will, they will most likely excel. And he gave an example of Bill Gates that he started coding earlier on. Because
Yeah.
listening to your story and again and again, those coding skills are coming in handy to kind of like help whether you start a business, like you just explained. Now you had to pivot and apply that, coding and technology to actually help the business to catch up with the demand and everything. I just found that to be interesting, so I just wanted to highlight that. Okay, you can go ahead.
No,
Thank you.
of course. I think, look, it's very important to always note this that when you have 100 farmers trying to contact you on WhatsApp every day,
Yeah.
and you don't have a mechanism to get their information correctly. I mean, it like
Mhm.
otherwise you have 10 people now doing data capture, trying to put it on the spreadsheets and so forth. And I
Yeah.
think being able to just set up a quick, easy form where they can fill out a form at their
Mm.
harvest schedule, what they have, pick from a
Address.
list, address every all of a sudden now we had a really easy way of now filing and getting to know our farmers and just using using an ability to aggregate these farmers and
Yes.
coordinate them so that we now know exactly when. Say
Yes.
hello.
It's hello. How are you?
Daddy's having an interview. Please go now. I'll see you later, okay? So sorry about that.
No, no, it's all right, Kuda, no problem.
It's
It's
a real
okay.
life, man.
No, no, no. That's the beauty of working remotely. It's okay.
So being able to manage a database of that size,
Hmm.
it's not scalable on WhatsApp, it's not scalable
Yes,
on phone call.
yes.
And also we didn't have the capacity to hire thousands of people, right? So
Hmm.
leveraging technology was our quickest way of
Hmm.
being able to scale. Even when customers are ordering, they were firing orders through WhatsApp, and we had to quickly find a way to say, right,
Yes,
we have WhatsApp web, right?
yes.
We didn't have WhatsApp API at the time, but with WhatsApp web, how do
Mm.
we hijack these messages off WhatsApp web?
And
and immediately route
integrate.
them through and integrate them or using a Chrome extension. And that's what we did.
Mm.
We had to
Mm.
put a Chrome extension on top of WhatsApp web and sort of now start firing things off to HubSpot at the time. Just say
Mm.
these are the orders, so we know how to do that, and also using Google Sheets.
Yes.
So that's how we quickly now is me, Rufaro, then my wife, and then all of a sudden now we have a guy who has to manage warehouse and loss control, and all these things need a technology, right? And I think it's
Yes.
considering
Mm-hmm.
in Zimbabwe, yes, the payment gateway is an impossibility. These
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things as I benefited from having lived in the diaspora to
Mm-hmm.
have, when you open a without we would have crumbled quickly. But the thing is,
Mm.
with tech, we knew in the morning, we knew what our order sheets were.
Mm-hmm.
We knew, with the data analytics now as we were growing after a year, we could predict orders on a day-to-day basis with a
Mm.
margin of error of 5-6%.
Analytics
Um,
now. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so even our procurement became so smooth because, like, you know what? We're coming up to Easter. People are more going to order. Last year, we had this many orders. Let's plan for this, considering the growth curve and
Mm-hmm.
even our spend. How many should we be catering for? And we
Mm.
could now start really planning better, and
Yes.
we now start dividing roles better. So
Mm-hmm.
Rufaro really took over the operation side. Noma took over the back office and
Mm-hmm.
finance.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of and then sort
You're
of
the
grabbed the
face.
on. Well, the face and also the tech, right? The tech
Yes.
was the apps had to be solid on the app stores, and
Mm-hmm.
the experience had to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Considering in Zimbabwe, yes, the payment gateway is an impossibility.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the things as I benefited from having lived in the diaspora to
Mm-hmm.
have. When you open a Stripe account 20 years ago and now it's working really well, or I have a PayPal account from 2000 and 2005, and these are the
Mm.
things that started coming into vogue and play because
Mm-hmm.
a young Zimbabwean developer would not have the privilege of being able to immediately use a
Yes.
Stripe, right? So I can say I was very privileged that I had that exposure prior, and
Yes.
we could scale the business really quickly. And there was a lot of interest started coming, and I think we refused money for the first 3-4 years of our
Yeah.
existence
Mm-hmm.
because we were cash rich, right? We were
Yes.
literally taking stuff out of the ground and getting it
Mm-hmm.
to our customers on the same day within a few hours, and they were
Mm-hmm.
giving us. And this
So
was a wonderful thing because there's no debt involved, there's no
yes.
nonsense involved.
Yes.
As far right? Instead of
Yes.
selling a cab dollar for four, we
Yeah.
could now sell for $1 each to our customers. So this
Wow.
was more profit. So as farmers, we could now be even more generous paying each
Yes.
other as farmers. Um,
Mm.
I mean, as the story develops, obviously we then now took over the fresh farm,
Yes.
got into
You
partnership with
expanded.
some. Yeah, we started because we wanted to integrate the value chain top to bottom, the
Mm-hmm.
logistic.
Yes. And
Um,
now, get the product from the source. I was going to ask you, Kuda. So, so now as the business expanded, then did you ever then get to a point where you wanted funding? Because a lot of people then say, okay, we don't have funding. Funding is just one part of the equation. So how did you navigate through that? Because I could tell that, your business was, having a lot of demand and success in that regard.
so as Fresh in the Box as a business, we actually didn't do any fundraise for that one.
Hmm.
Um, we made it so valuable that in 2020 we now it was in 2022
Hmm.
we now managed to sell 51% of it we managed to sell off
Wow.
um at,
Hmm.
at a non-disclosed
Yeah, of
amount
course. That's okay.
to a to a senior
Yes.
partner
Yes.
who owns retail shops and
Yes.
that in itself was a testament that look we bootstrapped it from the beginning.
From the
We didn't take
beginning.
There was a lot of money that was being thrown at us and offered. There was a lot of grants and
Mm.
grant
And there would
funders
be
saying,
dilution, right? If
right,
people come in the
right.
boardroom, there would be these boardroom squabbles. It reminds me of the story of Steve Jobs. I think that was Steve Jobs, right? He was
We
then
lost his
booted out.
company.
Yes, like the very company that he started.
Yeah, I mean, so we hesitated taking cash from individuals or even grants and stuff because
Mm.
what was happening was whenever we're approached by some of these NGOs about there's a fifty
Yes.
thousand dollar grant, what would
Mm.
happen is we end up spending tons of time at conferences and
Yes.
accelerators and
Hmm.
and what they didn't realize is that I actually don't have time to be doing reports and messing around trying to get free money. I
Yes.
have customers. And
Yes.
that's the one that we said, let's
We are
focus on
paying
our
cash.
customer. We're paying cash, right?
Yes.
So we're a very cash rich business. And I think that was the blessing in that as an FMCG product, It was fresh, it was good quality. I mean, you can go on our Google reviews or Facebook reviews. I think you may find 2 negative comments out of maybe 5,000-6,000
Yeah,
people who've
and
commented.
it's normal
Yeah, and it's like
statistically.
yeah, and we are, you know, we were always focused on our customers, right? Our customer care and our customer has actually made me somewhat immune to my obnoxiousness on Twitter and stuff. Because if you order from us, I promise you, nobody will go against this, right?
Yes.
You're always get your product. You're always going to get it fresh. You're always going to get the best customer service, you know.
Yes.
And sometimes they can overlook my shoddy bad language sometimes when they say, no, at least at the end of the day, as a character, on business ethics, my team is always
It's different.
yeah. And
I
so
think
it's after we sold, so after we sold, after business and just
yeah.
kept a minority shareholding of 49% with the wife.
Yes.
That's when I sort of now had the legs to now really be creative and start
Yeah,
shopping.
you had the cash, the powder to expand and
Well,
explore other things. I
to
know
do
you are
other
very
things.
kind.
I had the freedom.
And humble.
I had the freedom.
Financial freedom.
I had the financial freedom to now be a bit
Yes.
more experimental, right?
Yes.
And weirdly enough, if you
Yeah.
ever use FreshintheBox, you would know that we were, like I said, we had hacked a version or like a Chrome extension on top of WhatsApp Web. So we had hacked an LLM called I think we're using DaVinci 1. Some of the original open sourced LLMs, like they were terrible. I mean,
Wow.
guys have with ChatGPT is thousands and thousands, millions of miles better. But we coded a bot called Lucy. That was our first one, and obviously, named after the first fossil.
Yeah.
And Lucy, and if you go in the old FreshintheBox chat, you remember that Lucy was the person, the first interface with our customers,
Okay.
because we know at certain parts of the day we would have thousands and thousands of people talking to you at the same time. And we needed Lucy to help us, number one, sort the data and put it,
Yes.
and put it in our system. And number
Yeah.
two, we needed to answer the questions that we know people are always going to ask.
Yes.
Yeah. Number one, can you send me the same order from last week to the same
Oh,
address?
okay.
Right.
Yes.
So number one, Lucy can know what the order from last week was, and
Yes.
Lucy can know what the address is.
Mm.
So it was very, very quick to then say, oh no problem. No problem, Munya.
Yeah.
We'll send it to 32 Mathenius Road
Yeah.
at this time, total cost this much. So
Wow.
Lucy was very rudimentary, but
Yes.
she really automated our systems. Now, I think the theme you'll hear from me always is going to be number one.
Yes.
Can you automate the process?
Yes.
Number two, delegate the process, right?
Yes.
So with the car drivers, it was a delegation process. We can't drive that many cars.
Yes.
The automation was this next cog of our business, which is like, how do we automate as much of this as possible? So once we have the address system on Google Sheets,
yes,
what is the cron job doing in the at midnight to run it through Google Maps API so that we have the best routing for the 7-8 drivers who we need at 6 a.m. and the 8 drivers we need at 9. You know what I'm saying? And so by the time you wake up in the morning, our email is already filled with the routes that need to happen, which we could then probably just send even to our drivers, say, this is your route. And then they, and this is your packing sheet. So, and the packing sheet is also gone to our warehouse. So remember, this is not being now doing this. This is all being done automatically because the orders have been taken, the data has been sifted, the information about location and address and what they have to take goes to the driver. The information for what has to be packed goes to Lighten and the team in the warehouse.
Yes.
We as managers can wake up and see the emails of how many orders we have and how many routes we need to organize. By that time, Wendy's been told, our partner drivers have been told, and we've also started creating our own motorbikes and Mercedes trucks, so that we could really make the refrigerated trucks to make sure that our produce was even better when it got to our customers. So by the morning when we get to our customers, by the morning we get to work, everything is already ready for us to start executing. And then once you put in control at the end of the day and you put in what's left over, the system sort of automatically used to know what needs to be ordered today and so on and so forth. So automation has been such a huge, I cannot explain how important it is for a small team to be able to automate vast tasks.
It makes everybody's life easier, right? Kuda, sorry to interject. I wanted to follow up on that. So now So now you have also started other businesses, including, in South Africa, you are running a farm there, and also
Yeah.
now getting into the African market, and also you have the AI. Can you, tell us about that, and also including, the mining venture? Because a lot of people would say, oh, there are no opportunities in Zimbabwe. But one thing that I respect and admire about you, Kuda, is that, you know, you are very critical and you go for opportunities, because recently I think you started venturing into
Yeah.
gold mining. Do you want to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that as well?
Okay, so I'll go in the order that you asked. I mean,
Sure.
so remember I was telling you about Lucy, our AI assistant, who was very, very
Yes.
rudimentary.
Yes.
uh, Lucy evolved into what became Zerai, and then from Zerai became Danai,
I remember
which is the name
Sivai.
of my brother, name of my daughter, actually. But they have AI at the end, so it sounded
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Um, so the first thing that we did as the Africa AI project was to say, look, we built Lucy, but Lucy can now be so much smarter because now, OpenAI has opened up API
Yes.
keys and stuff. And we can now make our LLMs smarter, Hugging Face,
Yeah.
Longchain, and all
Mm.
these things were now on the market for us to build on top of.
Mm-hmm.
So sitting on the thoughts of giants, the first thing that we did was start to build really cool versions of ChatGPT, pretty much. I think
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the ChatGPT app today with the image adding and the voice and all that kind of stuff, we
Mm-hmm.
had that stuff like 6 months before
Mm.
ChatGPT did it themselves.
Mm.
Um, but the one thing that we knew was that platform risk was going to be a huge thing. So the team really made sure that we understood that this is not our core business. This is
Mm-hmm.
us now putting our teeth into the AI space, putting
Mm.
a flag into the space as Zimbabwean Africa AI project to say
Mm-hmm.
we're here and
Mm-hmm.
we understand what you're doing, and we're also now wanting to train our own language models, and we also want to participate and not be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Even our image generation models and all these kind of things. So we were now really trying to make sure that number one, we get to learn as much as possible. But number
Mm.
two, all this great AI stuff that we're learning, how
Mm.
do we make it work for people who are doing the boring businesses that we know make money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for example, Fresh in a Box is a boring business.
I
It's
know.
it's it's it's,
For
it's
most
food
people,
and
right?
bed. Yeah, it's a boring business, right? But
Yes.
with the leveraging of AI now, it makes it super exciting for us in the tech space because
Yes.
Lucy, who became Zai, who became Danai, who is
Yes.
now Entle,
Yes.
these are superior beings as far as
Yes.
automation and working through products. So the venturing into the AI project was a wonderful experience. We did a
Yes.
great crowd fundraise, and we've now built on top of that some really awesome software to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that small businesses like ours can run efficiently, right? So,
Yes.
with MD accountants, we get with their setup. We've got great companies like Genking in Zimbabwe and Royal
Mm-hmm.
Precast. So many young companies now benefit from being able to say,
Mm.
wow, we can push out, Facebook ads automatically. We can get our leads
Mm.
automatically. We can convert those leads into sales automatically through clever LLMs, and we can make sure that our automation so you don't have to have a huge team. You
Yeah.
almost now need 5 people for the job of 50 people. And that's what's really
Yeah.
that's what
You
I've been
save on
so passionate
costs.
about the last years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the FKI project came in is one of my passion projects.
Mm-hmm.
Teamed up with some young developers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interim CEO for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did everything that I could have done as a CEO at the time,
Mm-hmm.
coming out of the fresh in the box time, but
Mm-hmm.
really making sure that we built the stuff that we needed to use and then
Mm-hmm.
left it in the very capable hands of Cyprian and Aaron's, who was my partner in the FKI project, so that because they're still building on more giant, they're still really going deep into the AI space. But
Yes.
I was always very sure that I wanted the AI to now help me leverage and make boring businesses more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm doing now. Now that I'm sort of been in South Africa, things
Mm-hmm.
like my address, things like,
Mm-hmm.
like our fine solar business, some of these other businesses that we've now started in the region.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do we build great brands, great business, great customer service,
Mm-hmm.
without having to break the bank on human resources, but
Yes.
also make sure customers have the best experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've
Capital
ever
is a
done
barrier to most people, right? Then you were like,
most
okay,
people,
interesting.
let's
Sorry, I wanted to add something. There's a lady called Sanchez. She is, she has a multi-million followers on social media. So she also has this model where she buys boring in quotes, boring businesses. Like for example, someone has a small business of like maybe picking up garbage and stuff like that. And mind you, these are businesses that cost maybe like 2, 3 thousand to start. So because she understands, she worked, I think in New York in Wall Street, right? She now leverages on it and then buys these businesses, scale them up, and then make money. So I just wanted to add that it's very
Awesome.
interesting to then look at these opportunities like we are doing. And now, can you tell me a little bit more about mining Kuda? How has it been going? Like what other opportunities are there in Zimbabwe as well?
Yeah, so again, another joke on Twitter, which went too far. I think we had all watched the Gold Mafia project, the documentary, and I think
Documentary, yes.
that social activism kicked back here now. Like, why are we not involved as
Yes.
individuals?
Sometimes people just complain.
Yeah, why are we not involved, right? Well,
Yes.
how is it our gold if we are not participating in the value chain? And
Yes.
I tweeted as such, and I said, I'm looking for guys because I was like, look, you know what? Like I said at the time, I'd now sold up half the business.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
liquidity. Why don't
Yes.
I join up with other guys and let's put $5,000 together each?
Yes.
Let's hold $1 million and let's go into this space head
Yes.
first and fail badly.
Because
And if we
capital
fail
is a
badly,
barrier to most people, right? Then you were like,
most
okay,
people
interesting.
let's work together on this. And if I lose $5,000, it'll be painful,
The
but
risk is
it's not
limited. Yes.
it's not my house.
Yes.
Um, and I tweeted that and I went to sleep and I woke up and there was like 200,000
Wow.
people have this tweet
Including
and
me.
600 people said, okay, I'm in, and they filled out the form and like again it's automated. So people have done KYC. You're like, oh my
Yes.
God. What
Now
have
I
I
have to
done?
execute. My reputation is on the line.
It's on the line, right? So which is when we sort of said, okay, cool, let's start, in Zimbabwe, you can't legally have more than 50 owners. So we start
Yes.
with 50 people in our consortium, and we sort of got really deep into the mining space. We had started to
Hmm.
understand traveling around Zim, and
Hmm.
we realized that the gold buying space was in itself was very very crazy and corrupt. So how do
Yes.
we capacitate these makorokoza and small scale miners?
Hmm.
We've done this before with small scale farmers. So this was not
Yes.
an difficult transition.
Yes.
A bore mill, for
Yes.
example, a $5,000 bore mill is something that a small scale farmer cannot even imagine. Like you
Hmm.
like breaking rocks with hammers and picks and stuff. But
Mm.
if you incapacitate them with a bore mill, capacitate them, with carbon leaching tanks, etc., etc.,
And you have
all of a
access to
sudden,
capital and other resources.
exactly,
Yes.
exactly. So this is when it started to sort of take shape. And because people like yourselves, came up and say, people like Dr. Huggins and Kurashisha volunteered to come to Zimbabwe. These are
Mm.
miners who are par excellence working for these
Yes.
huge
Globally. Hmm.
international global mining companies, coming through and now giving expertise and showing guys how to get from 3% of the chrome that they were doing to ferrochrome stage, like
Hmm.
really. So, and this is when I just, in the last year, it's like, wow, mind-blowing learnings in the mining space. Um, and now sort of like gone into our phase two, like, no, let's get more ambitious, right?
Yes.
We want to bring in an entire plant, a whole 300 ton per month plant,
Yes. Yes.
because which does everything, the cyanidation processes, the crushing,
Hmm.
the whole process. And we're trying to do this because I believe that when Zimbabweans get together with
Hmm.
competent minds, okay,
Hmm.
Kuda is useless at mining. I know nothing about engineering or
Hmm.
chemistry, but I can maybe convene, I can maybe get the people together and the
Yes.
database organized, the KYC and the business
Yes.
backend done.
Yes.
People like Hamilton, really great operators on the ground. They've run mines before and they understand how to go. Well, now
Hmm.
Dr. Mukurash coming in from Sweden and Finland and saying, look, here's how we do things better, how we
Yes.
utilize explosives better. And
Hmm.
then all the Zimbabweans who say, I don't know anything about this, but I've
Yes.
got cash in a bank
Yes.
that I'm
Yes.
also risk.
To invest.
Never,
Hmm.
yeah. That's made us almost a super, we're almost Superman in this
Yeah.
industry at the moment
Yes.
because we have
Yeah.
each other. We have a great community of people who are every day sort of putting energy into this
Hmm.
this baby that came out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's happened before. We have a guardian groups which spring up to look after kids in university, and we've
Yes.
done hundreds kids and stuff, but
Yes.
now more in a commercial space. We say, look, we
Yeah.
can get together. You have some cash, you've done my night shift taco.
Yes.
Don't send it to your mother to buy something crazy. How about giving it to a consortium of people who are actually capable, who've got reputations to protect? We'll
Yes.
put our money into that and let's do
Yes.
some really incredible things in the
Yes.
mining space, in the cultural space.
Hmm.
Next, we want to do tourism too. Why shouldn't we do that? Why should we be building beautiful tourism spaces for you and your children?
Exactly.
Villas,
And I keep
you
on
know.
getting this drive in you, Kuda, and of course, Noma, is your number one supporter, I'm sure. Your wife,
Yeah.
Noma.
I'm her number one supporter.
Yes. The thing is, I think sometimes I go on social media and I see a lot of people, they complain like this and that. And I'm not saying people shouldn't complain. But I
Yeah,
think sometimes people have to take initiative and, the energy that, sometimes people, spend complaining and being toxic. Why can't you
yeah,
channel that into something positive? And then
I
you can
agree.
learn from your failures, from your success. And I'm not saying people should not ask, the respective authorities for accountability and stuff. But there are some low-hanging fruits. I know you have been also
Oh,
doing a lot of initiatives to say there's no basis for people to throw away, garbage in town and then
rubbish.
expect, those are things. If you travel around the world, I live here in Canada and you feel shameful to throw your your banana peel,
Outside the
because
window.
yeah, because the environment is. I was in Boston the other time, and they say I think if they catch you, they fine you 2,000 US dollars, right?
Yeah.
So, so I think these are some of the things that collectively, you need politicians, you need a lot of other people. So I keep on hearing this idea that you are a very excellent team builder.
Yeah.
You leverage, I have this expertise, Isaac. Why can't you bring this? Why can't you bring this? And united, each person brings this, brilliance into this. And then at the end of the day, a lot of people who are successful, they hire smarter people than them. You can't do everything on your own. So this is very
You know,
interesting.
I mean,
Yes.
the truth of the matter is, right? Like I said, I don't like to self-aggrandize, but I'm a multi-award winning individual,
It's a
whether it's in the
fact.
music space, in the video space, in mining, in agriculture, we won awards everywhere. But I
Yes.
always want to always premise that with the truth of the matter is, this is not my doing, right?
Yes.
This is
It's a
the doing
collective.
of a collective brilliance of people way, way smarter than me,
You
right?
as an individual.
Yeah, like my wife is infinitely smarter than me. She's a
Yeah.
math grad, master's in mathematics, for God's sake.
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you surround yourself with brilliant people, brilliant
Yes.
energy of young people who are energetic, who want to be competent, and you surround yourself with key competencies that multiply your deficiencies.
Hmm.
I feel ashamed sometimes to be called up for some awards because I'm like, ish, if only they knew that there's a so strong team of kids who may
Yes.
never get the following or the accolades that
Hmm.
that that I get, but sometimes they're the real reason why. And I think so. If we're gonna go to our automation delegation, the delegation part is always find people smarter than yourself, and I am surrounded by
Hmm.
brilliant people all the time who challenge my mind. And like you said,
Hmm.
I complain a lot, I do, but I also try and balance that complaining with like,
Yes.
okay, what is our next step, right? So
Yes.
how many gates they painted? I'm not thinking, shit, man, I should have asked for shares or something. But the honest
And then what?
example, and then what, right? So if we are really upset with our council, let's take them to court now. Let's make
Yes.
them, let's hold them accountable, right?
Yes.
If they're not picking up trash, how about, guys, let's put some money together, let's get a trash truck and let's charge people $10 a week to just pick up their
There's
trash.
an
Let's find
opportunity there.
opportunities. Let's find opportunities, right? And
Yes.
and and the more I've done that in my life, the more I'm trying to see opportunities everywhere, right?
Yes.
Absolutely everywhere,
Hmm.
right? There's opportunities in fixing private roads now. There's opportunities in trash collection. There's, like I said, boring jobs, right?
Businesses. Yes.
But
And
people
mhm.
people pay for these things. People pay
Yes.
for you to, like I started a campaign to paint your mama's gate, right?
I remember I saw it
Um,
on trending on social media.
it was again jokes on Twitter, but
Yes.
5 or 6 painter guys came into my inbox and said, "Yeah, we want to do this job, right?" And I said, what would it take for
Another
you?
opportunity again from Peter.
Yeah, I said to them, what would it take for you? You can take a compressor, paint a compressor, I'm done. Right?
Eh.
It didn't cost us more than $370. Didn't cost us more than that.
Wow.
Right?
And then
And
now people will say, okay, Kuda, we want our mother's gate, painted. And then say, okay, I have people who do that. You charge a markup.
470 something gates till today. Till today, they're walking around painting people's gates from a list of people who were from that time.
That's
Because
another opportunity.
it struck a chord, and these painters
Yes.
are ecstatic. It's one of
Yes.
our, let's say, CSRs where we're not taking a profit from these guys, but
Yeah.
we are definitely assisting them and
You're
making sure
creating opportunities for other people.
opportunities for them, right? And now when I see how many gates they've painted, I'm not thinking, shit, man, I should have asked for shares or something. But the honest truth is, they paid back the compressor that I got them. They've now all
Mhm.
got compressors. I think there's 10 of them
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
it's just proved that, okay, these young men who stood up and took a shot
Yeah.
on Twitter,
Yes.
right? And now, like, every day it's like, I'm Dara Bagasimbisa, I'm da, it's like,
Mhm.
I feel like, wow, this is
They are
so
very
amazing that
grateful.
they're very grateful, they're very skilled, and
Yes.
they even painted my mama's gate for free. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy.
And good. I know you and I, we can talk and talk, right? In conclusion, I just want to give you an opportunity to say if there is someone who is listening to any part of the world and they wanna, look for opportunities in Zimbabwe, in Africa, what would you say? Are there opportunities there in Zimbabwe, in the
Yeah.
African continent?
Okay, so I'm going to be responsible in our answer so that I
Yes.
don't mislead the public.
Yes.
Zimbabwe has got a serious problem with governance.
Yes.
I think we're on SI number 900 and something, and this is
Yes.
we're just in 6 months. So
Yes.
we're talking, like, if we think about it now, we're looking at, I don't know, if you divide 6 months with 900 statutory instruments,
Oh,
it's almost a statutory instrument every other day, right? And
yes.
and so I want to be very clear in saying that it's not an easy
Yes.
environment to work.
Yes.
However,
Yes.
I want to say that if you drive around Zimbabwe today,
Yes.
there's over 1,000 buildings, thousands of complexes coming up.
Mm.
People are moving out of the rural areas, coming to the city. So the amount of people coming
Real
into the city,
estate.
services, real estate, food, and people selling fried chicken are exploding all over the country. Because the
Yes.
reason is Zimbabwe is the land right now of opportunities. My brothers
Mm-hmm.
and sisters, I don't want to lie to you. And
Mm-hmm.
I also want to tell you, no, it's going to be easy and so forth. No. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying to you is that if you surround yourself with brilliances and core competencies, you can
Yes.
come here and really dominate. Like, people love Fresh in a Box purely because of something Zimbabweans didn't do before, which is
Yes.
good customer service.
That's
Imagine
what
doing a
Amazon
business on
does.
something so simple.
They are obsessed with customers, satisfying the customer. So I think you you
That's
you
it.
you did it. And honestly, when I came to Zimbabwe the other time, I was an Arundel and I wanted sadza. And I think the person who was serving me, I had a complaint. The food was, it seemed like, it had overstayed. And then he was like, if you don't want, just go. Imagine I'm a
Uh,
customer. I want to pay $30 for that food, and I'm saying
that
this food
food.
doesn't seem like it's good. So that, customer care is actually good because you want to have the customer feel like, I should come back again and again, and they can refer
I'm
other
going to ask
people.
you a question, if you don't
Sure,
mind.
please.
You can beat it out of your thing.
Sure.
Which restaurant in Avondale was it?
I think it was Pick and Pay at
Right.
around the shopping center. This
Right.
Pick and
Now,
Pay, right?
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yes.
If you go to a place like Gava's now, right,
Mm-hmm.
where they have 100% trained their staff to please the
Yes.
customer,
Yes.
you would have left $70 on that day because you'll be
Uh,
so chuffed and
yes.
you'll be so and you'll be like delighted, right?
And I would
These
have
are the
referred some of my friends, let's say in America and stuff, they are going to Zimbabwe, say,
options.
oh,
Yeah,
just to
go to
try,
Gava's.
so that's the thing. But,
Gava's.
but the thing is, like,
So
maybe it was maybe that one customer who was just angry or something. So I didn't like, want to paint this, bad picture about, Pick and
yeah,
Pay as a
no,
whole.
no,
Yes.
I know, but you're
Yes.
right in saying that, with the I have noticed, for example, with the vertical of at least the diaspora remittances alone,
Hmm.
and it's going up to $9 billion this year of
Yes.
Zimbabwe sending money back, right?
Yes.
There's no reason why you are not here trying to get a little, and even 1% of 1% of that man, because
Yeah.
what do Zimbabweans want? They want to be part of the world conversation. They
Yes.
want nice things, right?
Yes.
My essay address is just saying, look, Amazon is now open in South Africa. Deliver to your virtual address in South Africa. Will bring it to you in Zimbabwe, right? Because
Yes.
they want to be part of that too.
Yes.
It's you growth business first, and there's fixing companies,
Yes.
inefficiencies is a youth growth business first. So there's a lot of things that we are now doing that are just saying, wow, if only Zimbabweans knew that if you came to Zimbabwe with a precast brick making machine, you
Yes.
would die of money
You
because
just need
we
an
don't have
open
enough.
mind. Yes. You
We
just
just
want an
there's not
open
enough
mind. Yes.
exactly. So there's those opportunities. But I said we are going to have to be the generation that says enough is enough. We are
Mhm.
coming back. We
Mhm.
are going to participate. We
Mhm.
are going to take opportunities as well. I
Yes.
don't ever want to be angry at Wickno for filling out a tender form that I didn't fill out as well. So whenever there's a tender, I'm going to fill it out too.
Yeah, you try. You give it a shot.
Gwanda problem. Gwanda project. Boys, project and we must also apply so that we
Yes.
don't have any excuses. So that when we complain with righteous reasons, that
Mm.
righteous people also stood up and wanted to participate.
And you demonstrated it in the God project. Now it's running, right? And
Beautiful.
too often those people they just complain, but they don't even know the criteria of doing that. They
Yeah.
don't invest the time in that. And I don't mean this to say it's generally, not everyone, of course. So Kuda, thank you so much for sharing this, and I
This
hope
was too short, man. We should have done a Rogan and gone for because I feel like there's 1,000 things I didn't tell you, but I look. I hope we can have this.
I'll give you an opportunity to also say something that you want to say, but I'll be happy to invite you again, Kuda.
No,
Please say
awesome. Look,
something
I
that you
mean,
wanted to share, for sure.
no, look, if your audience feels there's something that I didn't touch on enough,
Yes.
but I mean, look, the last thing in maybe I thought was important talking to business meetings that I need us to always remember the business you're starting is
Mhm.
different from the business you're actually running, and
Mhm.
and I want people to be very clear on this. The
Mhm.
Fresh in a Box is not a vegetable delivery company,
Yes.
right? It's a
Mhm.
data logistics company, right?
Mhm.
Um, we
Just
ended
like
up mapping
Amazon.
we end up mapping the whole of Harare by being the guys on the ground and understanding logistics. And
Mhm.
this logistics has now moved into the My Essay Address business and the Joey's Pizza. So basically,
Mhm.
even in the gold business,
Yes.
right? The ability to work with smallholder farmers and Fresh in a Box. It's an HR business.
Mhm.
Moved immediately into working with smallholder claim miners, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is that as you're starting a business, remember you're starting one business, but there
Yes.
may be 3 or 4 other different businesses that you're actually starting without knowing it. So,
Mhm.
so be quick to realize what business you are in, right?
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
if you say, for example, no, I want to change the way the cakes in Zimbabwe don't taste very nice, so I want to be the best baker, and you
Mhm.
start a bakery you
Mhm.
may quickly discover that you're not actually supposed to be baking, you're supposed to be a better marketing and sales,
I
right?
see.
Because being a great baker without the marketing and sales means nothing to
I
people who then
see.
can't taste the cakes, right?
Okay.
So you know that I'm going to do the great cakes, but then immediately know that everyone can bake a cake. Me, I have to be better now at marketing,
Marketing.
advertising. That's
Yes.
the story. So
Okay.
remember to know the business you start, and remember to then quickly find out the actual business you're in.
And you learn through the process. Thank you so much, Kuda. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and have a
Thank you so
wonderful.
much, brother.
Thank you so much.